Hello and welcome back to my channel.
In this video, I will be spending lots of time in the kitchen, and I wanted to bring you along with me as I talk about some of the things that I am learning this time around as a new mother of 4. If you watched my last video, I shared with you how I was just spending a little bit of time with my newborn and my toddler while my older 2 were away. And if I'm being completely honest, before my older 2 came back, I was a little bit nervous about the new venture of having 4 kids in the house. I was a little bit nervous about that responsibility and whether or not things would feel chaotic. So I was just spending quite a bit of time focusing on how I wanted to set things up, how I wanted to start new systems, and pretty much just figure out ways to simplify our daily routines and start routines where needed. Initially, I was struggling a little bit to figure out how I wanted to simplify things, but one night I decided to write on a piece of paper, simplify, and I decided this was my theme of this season of life. I wrote that out on a piece of paper and just put it under my pillow, and I just decided I'm just going to sleep on it, literally. And it seemed like after that, I just started coming up with just small little ways of different things that I could just do differently, just small things. And those small things, they do seem to be adding up. And I do want to share a little bit of those things that I have been doing differently in this video with you. So the first thing that I am doing differently is that I am trying to be less wasteful. I notice sometimes when our trash day comes around, I started noticing how it seemed like I was getting rid of too many things, and I always feel really guilty to throw food out, even if it's gone bad. That's really the only reason I'm throwing it out, but I always feel guilty about it. So I've been trying to, I have been telling myself, like, I'm not going to do that anymore. But I had still been doing it. So what I've been doing now is like really assessing what is in the fridge, really assessing what we have. And what I'm cutting up right here is actually food that my mother-in-law left. She went to a farmer's market. She brought these things in, but she didn't mean to leave them. But I know she wasn't coming back to get them, so I said, you know what, let's just go ahead and cook these things. This is not something that I would cook on the regular, but I'm cooking them now. And if you look at this pepper, it's so pretty. I've been admiring it, and I've wondered what it tasted like. So now I finally get to try it. It's purple. It's a purple pepper, and it has like a little bit of green in it. So it's really pretty. So I'm cutting up these potatoes and these peppers, and I'm using what I have in the house first. Really taking inventory of what we can use before I go out and just purchase things based off of just what I am feeling like eating in the moment. So another thing in terms of food, something that I was doing toward the end of my pregnancy, I was beginning to cook meals and cook extra food so that I could be able to freeze the leftovers so that we will always have something that could just be heated on the fly. And so I wanted to bring that aspect of my postpartum phase, and I wanted to bring that into like my everyday routines in the kitchen. So while I am preparing one meal in the kitchen, I will either fix extras and freeze the rest, or I will just begin to prepare something else, prepare my next meal. So right now I'm fixing breakfast. What I would do after this is, since I'm already in the kitchen, I will either chop up extra veggies while I have my cutting board out, or I will begin to prep my dinner while my breakfast is cooking. And this is something that has really been helping me cut down on my time in the kitchen, or at least it's helping me cut down on doubling back, because I'm still spending a good amount of time in the kitchen, but at least I'm not doing loads of prepping all day long. I can pretty much prep once, maybe twice, and then we are good to go with the rest of our meals for the day, and perhaps maybe even a couple of meals for throughout the week. That is a practice that has actually benefited me on this day, because my children actually were able to eat a breakfast that was already frozen from days prior. So they already had their breakfast, and this right here is just something that I'm preparing for my husband and myself. So we only have enough potatoes for today, but I am now preparing some biscuits, and I'm doubling this recipe, and I will be able to have enough to eat now, and then we'll freeze some for later on in the week or maybe next week. The next thing that I am implementing is a more precise routine for the day. So my children have been used to clearing the dishwasher after breakfast, but after they came back, we sat down and I let them write out a few things that they like to do during the day, things that they know they need to do, and then I just kind of put them in a more structured order. So we are waking up, coming down for breakfast, then we start chores. Today they went on and got dressed because it's a little later in the day, so they did get dressed before breakfast on today. But I'm allowing them to come down, have breakfast, do their chores, and then go get ready for the day. And something that I have tried to do in the past was have them do specific chores on specific days, but I realized that that doesn't always work out, because the house does not always get messy according to whatever day of the week it is. So what I'm doing now is having them clear the dishwasher, and then after that I will give them chores, whatever as I see fit for that day. And that's really been working out, and that's kind of helping us to really stay on top of things a little bit more than before. After they complete their chores, they move on to reading something, a book of their choice, and then also they are able to learn something. Now, it can be something that they choose, or it can be something that I choose. Right now it's summer break, so my daughter is focusing on her math, and then for my son, we just do for him. He can learn something as I see fit. And that idea was courtesy of my big sister, so thank you so much, big sis. Now I'm packing up the extra dough for the biscuits, and I'm just putting these in this freezer bag, and I'm gonna put them in the freezer. And these are the biscuits with warm strawberry sauce, the potatoes, and some chicken sausages. Since the kitchen is such a high traffic area and we all spend so much time in here, I made it my business to clear off as much of the counter space as possible. Whatever items are not used on a regular basis, I just store them away. And after each meal, we've just been working together to pretty much clean everything as much as possible. It really helps me and gives me a sense that the house is a lot cleaner when the kitchen is clean. The YouTuber Rosa Picosa refers to herself as a domestic engineer, and I personally really like that. I'm adopting it for myself because it speaks to the fact that we cannot always do things 100% ourselves. Sometimes we have to just be able to create systems to show other people how things can be done more efficiently. So I'm just showing my daughter here how to kind of clean the dishes off a little bit and then load the dishwasher. And she is really happy to do so as long as she can get her headphones and listen to her music. And that brings me to my next thing that I am implementing. And by someone else doing one of the chores that I would typically do, that frees up some space for me to be able to spend some one-on-one time with another one of my children. And my son, he has gotten into learning how to play chess. And at first, I wasn't really interested in it, but I thought, hey, this might be an opportunity for us to be able to bond. And as we were looking at this book and learning how to play it, I realized that it's actually a very interesting and fun game. Something that I rarely see talked about when it comes to these type of vlogs is hair. Now, when it comes to doing hair in this house, it is like really a big task. One head can take pretty much all day. And it's something that I am still like learning to be at peace with. And one way that I've found to have better hair days is to just do hair more often. And that probably sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but when it comes to certain hair textures, the longer that you go in between doing the hair, the harder it's going to be when it comes back around for you to do that hair the next time. And that might be something that a lot of people already know. Some of my children's hair or some of my girls' hair is easier to do than the others. So my toddler, her hair is a little bit more manageable, but still, if I go too long without doing it, it can be a real struggle when we actually sit down to do it. So I found that every 2 weeks, giving it a good detangle, that is what works best for me. So the day prior to this, we thought we were going to go into this grocery store to pick up groceries. But before we even got out of the car, it was an epic fail. So, and it's funny because I had talked to my mom, and my parents also raised 4 children, and they were pretty close in age to my children, to what my children are. And I was just asking my mom, how did you all do it back then? How did y'all handle grocery runs? And my parents had 4 girls, so how did you handle doing everybody's hair, keeping everybody together? And pretty much the answer was they just did what was necessary. So what is necessary for me right now in this season of life is to do grocery orders. They didn't have that luxury, but I do, so I'm going to use it. So on this particular day, I pretty much placed an order, and prior to the food coming, I cleaned out the fridge. And at the start of this video, I talked about how I want to do better about just not being wasteful and utilizing what we have. I pretty much took inventory of the food that we already had and came up with meals based off of what we had and also based off of what we wanted to have for the week. So the only things that I put in the grocery order was the things that I specifically know that we needed for the week. And prior to the groceries being delivered, I cleaned out the fridge. And what I decided to do, and I think this is pretty genius, I don't know if anybody does this, but what I did was all the food that is left over from previous days, I put them at the top of the fridge. So I will know that if I'm needing something to cook or to be prepared right there on the fly, I already have all of these leftovers at the top that I can choose from, and I can just see them really easily so they won't get lost in the back of the fridge. That is what I'm doing from now on. I'm keeping all of the leftovers in one place, and then I can just work my way down in the fridge from there. When routines are in place, food is prepped for the day, and the house feels somewhat tidy, it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to do more things that I enjoy. So soap making is not something that I have to do, but things like this, I really do enjoy them. It gives me a little bit of freedom to be creative, and I feel really good about doing it on today because I have the time. I'm putting the soap base into the oven to let it melt, and I'm going to grind up some oatmeal and lavender in the blender as an additive for the soap. On a matter of learning to not be wasteful, I had been pumping quite a bit of milk ever since my baby was born, and we found out that she will not drink from the bottle. So this is a bottle that we tried to give to her days prior, and this is how I ended up coming up with the idea to just make breast milk soap with it. I really like how the soap turned out. It has a really light lavender scent to it, and I made so much of it, so I decided to put some additives in the ones that I will be using. So this is just the plain one here with oatmeal and lavender. The ones that are speckled have some coffee grounds in them, and then I wanted to see if I could add a little bit of an interesting like print to these. So this is just cosmetic grade mica powder. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, that you feel inspired, and I hope to talk to you all in the next one.